So Adam and I talked. We had a picnic, tuna sandwiches, deviled eggs,
Ooh,
unsweetened iced tea.
no, I'm out.
How do we make the deep end deeper? Like, what do we do to make it more deep? Add depth, if you will.
Yes. Dynasty.
And the obvious answer is Dynasty. So this is the Deep End Dynasty 101. On Tuesday's show, the microphone appeared for the first time in Deep End history, and I didn't think it was big enough, so
you made it bigger?
I'm still working on the balance here between the head and the mic. The mic and the mic.
The mic and the mic.
Oh, Mike and Mike. Has there ever been a show named that?
Never, ever.
Never. Adam, do you know anything about Dynasty?
I love Dynasty. And the reason I think the thing that I love about Dynasty is the trading, because I play in so many of these high stakes leagues and these tournaments where there's best ball, there's no trading. So the fun part is in January, February, March, April is make these trades, you know. What about you? I mean, what's your favorite thing about it?
Well, a couple of years ago, the thing I loved most about it, and I didn't think I needed anything different, was the trading also. And then you came along.
Oh boy.
With your high stakes fur coats and your boa.
That's right.
The whole look, the whole high stakes vibe. And you know, let's try this. Let's try FFPC high stakes fantasy football. And there's no trading. And I cannot tell you how many times in the course of high stakes leagues I appreciated that there was no trading, because I never had to wonder if a guy who had 70 teams had a friend with 40 teams and had 20 different arrangements going at the same time. I loved there was no trading. So a little bit of a 180 for me. And now it's really dynasty season. You know, it's not high stakes season at all, except for the best balls.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit, I think it's good for me. I'm a little bit cautious because I used to be, very gullible and welcoming, and even if I make a bad deal here, I'll make a good deal later. Just wanting the action. And this year, I'm not like that at all. So it'll be fun to explore dynasty strategy with you over the course of the next however many months, and have different guests on. We'll have Jim Coventry from RotoWire coming up tonight shortly, and we'll talk about some of that with him, so that we don't make him wait too long. We're starting Deep End Dynasty tonight. And let's talk about, with that in mind, startups and how to, if you wanted to start a dynasty league, you have a bunch of friends who want to do it. I feel like it's really growing, and fantasy football players who usually draft in August, they sort of notice that more leagues are year round. They want to be a part of that. How would you go about building a startup league, and what might be some of your thoughts?
Superflex. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Is it's so much fun. Superflex, for those of you who don't know, is a 2-quarterback. Well, they call them Superflex or 2-quarterback. It's basically you can start a quarterback in your flex spot. So generally, it's the same thing as a 2-quarterback league. But I just love the dynamic that it adds to the draft, especially with all the trading that you can do. And again, a lot of the leagues, even your local home leagues, leagues, online, there's not a lot of Superflex leagues. Now they're getting bigger. Underdog just announced today that they're doing a Superflex tournament, which is horrible for my pocketbook, because I'm going to be all in on these Superflex tournaments. I love it. I love the quarterback position. I love studying it, and I love rooting for it. I love assessing it. So it stunk in other leagues. I'm the wait on quarterback guy, right? I'll wait. Obviously Josh Allen's my guy. I love Josh Allen, but I was never getting him because a couple of years ago I was getting him, but now he's the QB1. So I'm never taking him. But it's Superflex, I'm all in on Josh Allen. So yeah, Superflex and tight end premium would be my next step to Dynasty. It just, again, it makes the tight ends more valuable. Anything that can add more strategy to making different builds, to building a roster to helping with trading and draft strategy. I love it. So Superflex, tight end premium would be my top two things.
What are you at the Lobster Roll in Eastern Mass? I mean, you've got the gray background and the Cape
shiplap
Cod
back
divide.
there?
What is going on back there? What happened to you? Where's your background? You know, if you want Josh Allen and you draft 102 in a dynasty startup, you're in trouble.
I know. It's terrible.
It's gotten to that point. I mean, there are so many ways you can set it up. And all I would say is just generally think it through and make sure it's how you want it. And that transcends from roster construction or starting positions and scoring and things like that, sort of the minutia of fantasy football, to when do people have to pay by, and do you want a trophy, and just how you want to kind of present your new league. I think there are a lot of people every year, more and more every year, who are starting in this venture. They have friends they've been playing with for a long time. They're the alpha in that league. They're going to start the Dynasty League, and that's fine. And there's no reason why you can't try anything. You know, don't settle for having it be like your home league. When this was me a year ago, I had a Dynasty League I started in 2018. And it was kind of a little bit boring for me. It's fine. It's still going, and it's going well. We've had 4 different champions. But then I really sat down and I did this process myself and thought, what do I want to do to make it unique, or at least different than most leagues? Because unique, Adam, means only one. People say, very unique. Don't ever let me catch you saying that. So it means one. So what do? I incorporated a standings and playoff format that I know from Canadian curling tournaments.
Oh, wow.
We did a thing where you have to trade your first round pick so that there would be no tanking. Nobody would have an incentive to finish last because they would keep their own 101. You had to trade it or else you would forfeit it. Things like that. We did some IDP. I was in one league that had one IDP, and he had to play for your starting defense. And I thought that was interesting. So let's do a little bit of that. And, you can change it. But another thing to keep in mind, I'll keep this short, make sure you determine how to make decisions. Are you going to decide? Do people in your league trust you to decide? Or are you going to vote? It's better to establish all of that up front. So this isn't a specific, 2 running backs, PPR or half PPR. And this is definitely not whether you should draft Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams. This is more, just take a cigar and think about all the ways from your experience how you can make your league interesting to you and work for you. And there should be no end to those thoughts. Right. That's a little bit meta, but that's my thinking.
Yeah. Now with all the websites out there now that can help you do this type stuff, from ESPN, I don't even know if, man, been playing so long. CBS Sportsline used to do it. I don't even know if they even exist.
Wow.
CBS Sportsline. But yeah, you got the NFL, all the different sites that can help you do this stuff and create really unique rules and strategies, which can fit, IDP, all that stuff. It's a nice little, there's no off season in fantasy now, but it's definitely a nice little thing to do here in the off season. I can't wait for startups in the FFPC soon. I'm dying to get in some of these Superflex drafts and get rolling here.
What about, real quick on that, what about orphans?
Yeah, I actually, I'm not huge into. I scrolled through. Honestly, I was looking for some Josh Allen Superflex orphan teams. I found one, but it wasn't it was a $250 buy-in, and I want to play a little bit more high of a stake because again, these dynasty teams are going to take up a lot of your time. So for me, I want it to be in the wheelhouse that I'm used to playing. So I'm like, I don't know if I'll do that, but. It's generally if I'm going to do an orphan, I'll go look and I'll have a couple players in mind to see if I can build around those guys. But I'm usually not an orphan guy. I like to do startups and kind of build my own team.
Well, when you're at the Lobster Roll, 6 months a year, out there on the Cape with the wind blowing and the rain pouring down. You got the hat on to keep you dry.
That's
I
right.
can appreciate why you don't want to spend so much time. Let's bring in our guest, Jim Coventry from
You got it.
RotoWire. You hear him on Sirius fantasy shows, and no pressure, Jim. At least just sort of wear it. I consider you an expert in the field, so I'm sure you'll hold up your end tonight talking to us. And you and Adam have somewhat of a past, I understand.
Yes, but Adam is far better telling this story than I am. And gentlemen, thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here hanging out with you and talking some fantasy football.
Thank you. So, Adam, let's get that out of the way.
Oh, you want to tell this? Okay. Well, Jim, you used to work for Draft Sharks back in the day. DraftShark.com.
Great guys. Love that team.
Was that your first job in the biz?
Kind of. I worked a year for John Hansen with Fantasy Guru.
Yep.
And it's kind of like an unspoken internship because I wanted to break in. And so, then after that year, I actually had contacted John to see if I could work full time the following year. And so what happened was John didn't get to his emails. I knew they were merging with Football Injuries, Adam Kaplan, that year. So I figured they were probably good. And then I had been looking for work, and Lenny Papano gave me a job with Draft Sharks. And then Hansen checked with me later saying, I just saw my emails. I'm like, but it worked out. It's just great working for Lenny with Jared. It was just wonderful. Many years, great opportunity, good people.
Yeah. No, that's great. So, Lenny Papano, owner of Draft Sharks, he's big into the NFL draft. So he has a party every year somewhere. Sometimes it's in state, out of state, but I think it was a draft party, maybe 2005 or 2006, something like that. I was a kid. I was in diapers back then. And we're playing poker at a poker room down in his basement. And long story short, is it a tournament? I think we played tournaments. And I think I had a full house twice, and both times Jim dealt himself quads over my full house and sent me home crying like a baby.
Careful, dealt himself.
Well, that's the story. That's the story. I was very hot-headed back then. It was just like I wasn't.
Oh, you were?
Oh no, you can't even imagine. You can't imagine. So no, it was so much fun, and I'm glad I got to meet Jim way back in the day. And now somehow the story's just it's got a life of its own now. It's fantastic.
Yes, a lot of people think I am something I'm not, and maybe that's not a bad thing.
Adam, which story has had more legs on our shows over the years? Your poker story with Jim or my rescue dog story with Lenny and Chris?
That's right.
Both have their own existences. Listen, Jim, this is the last time you should have to answer to this ever. I mean, he confronted you at the expo last year. Now it's this,
there was no confrontation.
End it forever. Just dealt himself. You know what you're trying to say. Just get over it. End it tonight. Everything is buried after this.
So here's can I tell you real quick the funny part of the story? I do not have good fine motor skills. I'm the bull in the china shop. So dealing cards, I'm like all awkward with it. And so I think Adam was like wondering what I was doing with the cards. Literally, my motor skills are horrible. So I think he thought I was doing something weird at the deck. And then he drew quads twice. And so anyway, that was kind of the end of that story. But I thought that was funny.
So funny.
I am sure this is the last time the story will be ever spoken of, except for every time Adam and I drive to Canton together, starting this summer. I'm sure.
Poker at the expo this year. Oh, unbelievable.
Right. And flag football. Your two
I'm ready.
Best subjects. Anyway, Jim, so this is our first dynasty-oriented deep end podcast. We're talking about some things to maybe consider when you're starting a dynasty league, whether you're running one or just participating. Do you have any thoughts along those lines? Like, what are some good advice for people who want to get into dynasty?
I heard Adam mention earlier the idea of Superflex, and I love Superflex. The one thing that gets me a little concerned with Superflex and dynasty is that one quarterback injury could be complete death for your team. Because if it's a start two quarterback, I guess Superflex, you can start a different position player, but it becomes problematic when people are drafting 4 quarterbacks and you're in a 12-team league and there's a supply of about 32. And so, but otherwise you still go with it though. because anytime you add more starting positions, you add a skill level to the game, add more fantasy managers. The more you add, the more it adds the experience and the talent level and the level of difficulty. So I think that is totally right. You have to go super flex and as many teams as you could comfortably fit, because you don't want it to be easy. You don't want there to be luck involved. And the more of these variables you put in, the better owners are the ones, better players, I should say, are the ones that have the odds put in their favor by their hard work and their smarts.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? That's like sort of the reason for doing these leagues, is to separate from, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but your regular redraft leagues where somebody's in there and they just sort of suck out poker. Sorry, Adam. Suck out the whole season and they get you beat. So that makes sense. You want to make it hard, right, Adam? You want to make it challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim does make a great point about that. And I remember you, Mike, talking maybe before your Dynasty League that you put together recently. And you were talking about, if we do another Superflex startup, like I'm just going to take all the quarterbacks, because then I have all the leverage with trades and injuries and all that stuff. And those are really good points. Even if you're, maybe I know a lot of people that in Dynasty, they will go into the first year and they will just, trade away picks for next year, and they'll basically throw away the first year. You can do that and take 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks. And now you've got all the leverage and all the power for year 2, year 3, whatever. So that's a good point that Jim makes about the Superflex. And it can get a little bit dangerous. If it's your own home league, maybe you can put a cap on how many you're allowed to draft, something like that. But you're still, even if you put a cap on 3, that's 36, 12 times 3 is 36. You're not going to get all 3 starters. So it's a good point.
I think, Jim, last year too, and this year are both years where I think fans are anticipating a lot of change at quarterback. So you might look at your average Dynasty roster right now and see, okay, well, Garoppolo, even Jalen Hurts. I mean, you have Wentz, obviously. You have 6 or 8 guys where last year you did exactly what Adam is saying. You accomplished that and you put them in. You didn't worry about it too much, but 1 year later, Bridgewater is worth what in Dynasty? You have a lot of those names. So I'm not sure, maybe you have a thought on this, if this is an especially changeable time or if this is sort of random in the last couple of years, because you do have a lot of teams, especially in the AFC, who seem to be all set at the position.
Yes, it's difficult because the league goes through these cycles. And right now we have too many quarterbacks who are not long-term starters in the league. We may have upwards of 11 or 12 of those players. And so that's going to churn the quarterback pool greatly. So it's almost very important in a startup draft in Dynasty to get a couple of young quarterbacks, hopefully who have a little experience. Like, I know he's not young. Last year in one of the the new drafts that we started for Dynasty, Dak Prescott, he was 27, 28. I felt that was a good age. Quarterbacks are playing, if they're established, so they're in their upper 30s. So I thought getting a quarterback in that range was smart. I was willing to draft him a little bit sooner. Now I took a lottery ticket with my second quarterback. Trey Lance did fall a little bit. And I thought that was a pick that I liked because he's somebody I expected to draft capital, the team he went to, running quarterback. If you get him young enough, you hope to have these quarterbacks for a number of years. But you're right, Michael. We're talking about all these quarterbacks who are marginal players. Rostering them is very tricky because we don't know if they'll have a job in 6 weeks, next year, or what their situation will be. So you have to go in with a very specific strategy that suits your needs when you're starting that Dynasty startup.
Right. I mean, imagine Deshaun Watson maybe 15 months ago. What would be the problem? He's one of those guys you think is set forever. Maybe there'll be someone else like that in a year where you don't think you're going to have any problems, but there'll be some bad injury or some off the field, who knows what, and the situation will change. Adam, you and I were talking about, in our drafts coming up, the value of rookie picks. I think that this is a question that people have all the time in Dynasty is, what are my rookie picks worth? Do I want to get rid of them or double down on them? You hear a couple of things here and there about the quality of this class. I'm not sure that holds up over the years, year to year. But Adam, do you have a thought on what rookie picks are worth to you in Dynasty?
Yeah, I'm like the LA Rams of Dynasty. I love the idea of having a bunch of rookie picks in like a stacked class or something like that, but I would rather replenish with guys I've seen, guys I've known. I mean, we talk about all the time, like, the NFL doesn't even know if these guys are going to be good or not. How am I supposed to know? But I can tell you who's already been in the NFL, who's already playing, if they are good or not, or a little bit easier than I can, with the rookies. So I'm that guy. I'm not the guy that's going to get into a dynasty startup and just burn to the ground and plan for 2 years out. I'm not that guy. So the rookie picks do mean something. Even if you want to hoard them to trade them away for players that you want, which I have done that before too. But I'm not the guy who likes to go into a rookie dynasty rookie draft with like 4 or 5 first round picks. I guess there are exceptions if you got a year where you've got, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Joe Mixon, like you had a really stacked running back class, something like that. But for me, I would rather just trade those picks and get guys that I really like moving forward.
Jim, is that how you feel?
I had to laugh when Adam said the LA Rams because that is exactly what I was going to say is my approach. Now, a first round rookie pick, fine. The hit rate is fairly decent for the most part. You're okay with that. But beyond the first round, I'm always happy trading those picks away for any player that I feel has established value that I like. Because, look, we understand this in the NFL draft. A player drafted in the NFL first round, they do have a significant bust rate, but the second, third, fourth round, as the rounds go on, that NFL bust rate grows exponentially. I don't want to deal with that if I don't have to. And there are plenty of dynasty managers that feel they have the handle on all these third and fourth round picks. Go at it. Give me the veterans. I'm happy to do that.
We got a text here from Scott. Who is a dynasty player on the rise and one that's a faller? On the rise, relative to sort of the general attitude about each guy. Some of the tight ends are kind of interesting, guys, just to throw something out. I'm in not a dynasty, but a best ball draft right now, and people are excited about Pat Freiermuth. They're excited about Dawson Knox. They're excited about Cole Kmet. There's a little bit of juice there, but that's not exactly an answer to Scott's question. You guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think a guy that I really like right now in redraft and in dynasty is Hunter Runfro. I think he's a guy that he's young still. He's in an offense that's about to, I think, be tailored perfectly for him, and he's still not. He's still not. People aren't raving about him yet. I don't think people have caught on to the fact that he's going to be Julian Edelman. Like he's going to get 100 catches in this offense, I feel like, with Derek Carr. And I think you can get him, I'm not in a ton of dynasty leagues. I'm probably in like 7 or 8. And I have Hunter Renfrow randomly in one, and I got offered a second round pick for him. And it's not even close to what I would ask for, to what I would take for Hunter Renfrow right now. So a guy that I might be trying to go get before, because I think underdog ADP, 6th round right now? I feel like in 2, 3, 4 months, it's going to be 4th round where Edelman was going, 4th, 5th round. So that's a guy I think you can get right now that I think's rising.
You mentioned on Tuesday, yeah.
Building off what Adam said, look, there's a trend that happened in the league last year. And this trend, in my opinion, is going to last a few years minimum. And that trend was when teams started to go to the 2 high safeties. And they forced the NFL teams to stop going for the big downfield shot and to settle for things underneath. We saw, as Adam mentioned, Hunter Renfrow went off, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the second half of the season, Jaylen Waddle. Players who were playing in the interior of the field were raking in the second half. That was not an accident. And fantasy managers that don't pay attention to that trend could get burned this year. So yes, a Hunter Renfrow, any of the players along that lines that are being undervalued, who are middle of the field players, I believe they are going to have great reward. Now, the downgraded players, not the superstars, but we saw Cortland Sutton have a bad year last year, and it had to do with quarterback play and many other things. But if we look at the changes the defense has made to take away the big play, the superstars are still going to get theirs, no question. But the players who are below that tier, and they're more of the outside clashers, I think their fantasy value is going to go down because the league is going to take those big plays away. That is here to stay for, again, a few years. So I will answer those are the risers and the fallers, not by name, but by grouping.
Yeah, a lot of those top receivers you can picture Devontae Adams in your mind's eye, or Jamar Chase. They're doing it all. A lot of their big plays are slants, they're underneath. Out routes, like Adams just can pick up 10, 15 yards almost with the right quarterback, in both cases, all the time. And then that just makes it easier for them to get loose down the field, and you get that too. One more idea for a faller might be surprising because the guy's had a lot of success in the league. Tom Brady seems to be falling a little bit in the last few months, but don't rule out the possibility of an uptick because Brady refuses to just rule out himself the possibility of playing again.
Jim, that's a good point, Jim. Sorry, Mike. I just wanted to about the outside receivers. I really want to love a guy like Cortland Sutton, but even when we're talking dynasty with the rookies, a guy like Treylon Burks is one of those one of those big-bodied. He ran pretty well today. I think he ran a 4.5. He's 6'2", but with him, he does play a little bit out of the slot too. I think it was maybe 40% of his routes were out of the slot. I could be wrong, but I think he could be a big-bodied slot. But I really want to love a guy like Burks, but it depends. What offense is he going to go to? What quarterback is he going to go to? Like Mike said, Adams can get 15 yards on those slants, but he's got Aaron Rodgers. I feel like a guy like Burks to really hit early has to be with the right offense and the right quarterback to really take advantage of that big body. Because like you said, defenses are taking that away. The Bills defense, for example, they never give up deep balls ever. Never, ever, never. It's not because they have, all, Hall of Fame corners, super athletic guys. It's just their scheme. They play that shell, and they're not going to let you beat them deep. And so, guys like Treylon Burks might struggle, whereas maybe some of these rookies, like Calvin Austin, something like that, depending on where he lands. But, someone quick like that might fit the NFL better now.
Well, yes. I mean, Hill had that one against the Bills, but that's not a deep pass. I mean, obviously,
right. That was short, and he ran. Yep.
He just got through everybody because where they're strong, they're maybe a little bit on the slow side, deep middle, and it got them a long way. I'm not knocking them. Jim, before we let you go, so a big part, maybe the most fun part of playing in Dynasty is trades. Do you have any tips for this? Is basic negotiation skills, kind of like 101. That can apply to a fantasy sports league, which is, again, why it makes it so much fun and so interesting. Any trade advice?
So, yes, and especially if we're talking dynasty, it's in all leagues, but you want to create goodwill with the fellow fantasy managers you're in the league with. And going in, looking the rosters over, trying to create a win-win proposition. Look seriously at what your other manager needs, what you need. Find an offer that gives them equal value to what you're going to get in return. Yes, you're going to have to give up to get. That's the way it works. The people that try to fleece people, it doesn't work. It gets them upset, and then nobody wants to do business with them. So, look, many of my leagues, frequently, the first offer I give gets taken, because I take that time to study their roster and I will give them value. And that reputation that I've established with the people who I'm in the same leagues with year over year, they realize that I'm going to give them my best offer first. I'm not looking to make a counter. I'm looking to make a deal.
Well, plus to piggyback off the edge of, I don't know how many dynasty leagues you're in, but like if you're in enough dynasty leagues, 5, there's just no time to go back and forth 76 times, for all these trades. It, like you said, it can be frustrating. I completely agree. And we got another quick question here for you, Jim, from Scott again. Is Jaylen Waddle a first rounder in dynasty startups? What do you think?
Well, if it's super flex, we already have to rule that out. If it's tight end premium, that makes it dicey. If it's single quarterback, you could make the case for it. But I would not put Waddle in that rarefied air because, like I said earlier, he is the prototype for the type of player who's going to thrive in this too high shell league for the next few years. But with the quarterback lack, and look, he got a ton of targets down the stretch. But if they get that ball spread around a bit more, I don't know that target share holds. If Miami's defense plays well, they may run the ball more. I don't think he is going to command the level of targets he commanded in the second half last season. I don't think he's that guy. I think he's a star, but I think that the way he plays in the middle of the field primarily is going to be useful. But in the first round, I want that guy, like Mike mentioned, the Devontae Adams who could beat you in any particular way. He could beat you down the sideline, not by speed, but by smarts and ability, beat you on the slant, beat you in all different ways. And I think Jaylen Waddle can do a lot of things, but I don't think he's that level of player who is at that tier. I still would like CD Lamb ahead of Jaylen Waddle.
Interesting. Yeah. Super flex is a factor. The format is so key. Tight end premium. So is whether you start 3 receivers versus 2. I mean, it seems to me in recent experience, the guys who have really crushed it in dynasty startups have been the guys who went all in on wide receiver. And it couples with the point in time we're in the NFL, where you have all these amazing wide receivers coming to the league. We don't know yet if the 2022 guys will be amazing, but you do have 6 or 8 of them that could all be the first one picked going into the combine. I mean, Burks is such a specimen, like you mentioned him. He didn't jump today very well. So it's going to be a matter of taste. You had Ruggs go first in the year with Lamb and Jefferson and Judy and Rager, and that was a big surprise. So there's so many. Easily, right, Jim? Just quickly, easily the top 2 dynasty receiver properties, if you will, are Chase and Jefferson, guys who've come into the league in the last 2 years who were in the same college offense. Like, this could change even at a position where there's a lot of longevity compared to running back. This can change pretty fast with the time we're in.
Yeah, and I also like, a knock on Waddle too is I also like if I'm going to take a receiver in the first round, I want him to be attached to a stud quarterback. Like Tua to me is not a stud. Who knows how long he's going to be there, and then when he's gone, they could be in quarterback purgatory forever. Now, Waddle is that short intermediate guy where, you just got to get him the ball quick and let him do all the work. But still, if I'm first round pick, I want a guy that's attached to Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, those type of guys that are going to be attached to them for 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Well, Jim, let me just tell you, we all met at the Expo in Canton last year. We may see each other again this year, but RotoWire, your company, was really my re-entry into fantasy sports, listening to the RotoWire guys, Chris and Jeff and Mario on Sirius. You're a big part of that. You're on the air sometimes with those guys too. And then the fact that you know Adam, I didn't hold that against you. So it was great to have you on.
It was a blast being here. And yeah, anytime, and look forward to talking to you guys soon.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks so much, Jim.
See you in Canton. That's something you say to somebody when they're retiring and they've had an amazing career. They're getting their number retired. See you in Canton.
See you in Canton. Not anymore. Not anymore.
See you in Canton to play poker and flag football and drink at the Residence Inn.
I love it.
Okay, yeah, that'll be fun. So a couple of thoughts here. Offers, if you're in dynasty leagues, are probably flying around, especially this week, I think, Adam, with the combine happening.
Yeah.
And so do you have any good ones you want to share?
Yeah, let me maybe pull this up here. I got one that I just recently did over at so most of my dynasty right now is over at the FFPC. This was so we were talking about this one I did on January 29th. Let me pull this one up here. So, and again, I want to apologize. So, I know in drafts, we're not supposed to show the people's names. I don't know how to show trades without showing who the trades are with,
okay.
So forgive me. And again, every dynasty team has their own prerogative, their own, how they're trying to build, what they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to flip a player. Anyways, Superflex, I said, you know what? I'm in the Superflex League. I really want to win. I am Birdman's brigade. I said, I can't do Superflex anymore without Josh Allen. I'm going to do whatever it takes to go get Josh Allen. And I did. I traded DK Metcalf. I traded Tony Pollard, Elijah Moore, and a first-round pick next year for Josh Allen and Darren Waller. So, Josh Allen's one of the guys that I think is a trade target for me for Dynasty, especially in Superflex, because I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL. He's been the best fantasy quarterback back-to-back years, but I feel like he still doesn't get that Patrick Mahomes air about him where, oh my gosh, I gotta have, I think you can still get him. And I think I got a pretty decent deal. You got to remember, again, it's Superflex. I know Elijah Moore has been rising lately, but I don't know. I feel pretty good about this deal.
Yeah, I think you should. Waller, he's going to be a polarizing player, I think, as we talk through the spring and summer. I think the Raiders are not that this is really the focus, but the Raiders will mostly be the same, I think, personnel-wise. Maybe they'll add a receiver. Elijah Moore, everybody loves Elijah Moore. They still have Corey Davis, and the quarterback hasn't proven he can play yet. I think he did great here.
Yeah.
Love Metcalf. And Pollard is a part-timer. I mean, Pollard might not get to a full-time role if he ever does before he's almost aged out.
I know. It's so wild.
He's somebody I'm enjoying shopping in Dynasty because there's a lot of excitement for Tony Pollard. And Elliott's he's getting paid. He's going to play.
Right. That's right. So, and then real quick, I made another one. I think this was today, actually. So this is in the Draft Sharks Dynasty League, where a bunch of guys, we had a bunch of Draft Sharks Dynasty guys, Jared, Kevin, Matt, we're all in this together. And today I need a tight end so bad. My team is stacked. I'll show you it afterwards just so you can see. But I went ahead and I traded for Dallas Goedert. I traded a second-round pick and a second-round pick this year and a second and third next year. And again, it's tight end premium. So I thought I did pretty good there. He also had another pretty good tight end on his roster, so he could kind of trade Dallas Goedert. I'm not super high on Goddard. I still think he's probably like my, I don't know, tight end 7, something like that. But again, to fit, and again, a lot of this stuff, guys, has to do with guys and girls. This has to do with your roster, your team. What you need to do. Maybe you got to overpay, but again, this is Superflex. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Elijah Mitchell, Zeke, Diggs, Jefferson, Ridley, and I had Ferkser in there. So live, I'm going to put in Dallas. Live on the deep end. So I'm basically in my eyes, I'm a tight end away from being an absolutely dominant team. Got Pollard on the bench, Madison. I got those handcuff guys, Boyd, Crowder, Beasley. I have no first or second round pick now, but I don't care. I love this team. I needed to get that tight end. It was a quick deal.
I think that is something, getting rid of your first and second or your draft crop. That is something you do want to be willing to do. Dynasty, why do you want to play Dynasty? Draft picks year round, sort of the idea, the way every NFL or every sports GM talks, building through the draft. Look, if you're the fourth best team, you go to your app and find out you're the fourth or fifth best team. What are you going to do?
Right.
You're going to build through the draft. You're going to maybe you want to sell everything for the right deal and go to the top. And that's what I would do. You cannot be afraid to do that. It does mean at next year's draft, which is the one get together you'll have, everybody's favorite day, you're going to sit there all day and watch the other players pick and all feel like they're getting a lot better. Yeah, but play in enough leagues where you can have a balance and then be able to afford to have some leagues where it's like that, I would say. Because if you're drafting 7th, it's going to be fun to look forward to. You're going to enjoy those conversations, but you're not necessarily going to get better doing that. Just move it. Always be working. Don't be annoying if you can avoid it, but always be sort of trying to figure out ways to go to one end or the other. The other end is fine too. Sneaky Joe. In one league that I know a lot of people are familiar with, the League of Shopes and Dreams, Sneaky Joe last year is like, all right, I'm bad. He went and he's got 5 first-round picks coming up in this draft, but we'll talk about this over the course of the season. What exactly do you do with those picks? It's too many. It's too many, Adam.
No.
You're going to have this Ohio State wide receiver and this running back 4 and this, if they all work out. Last year, I drafted Pitts, Chase, and Waddle in one first round in that league. I was lucky. The timing was just, I don't know how you plan for that.
Right.
2023, all the dynasty shows are telling you the same thing. It's sort of next year over this year. If you can figure out a way to do that optimally. But
again, who wants to, like you said, who wants to keep pushing it back? It's costing you money too. You're burning money to push it back for next year, and again, in this league, this is just kind of it's a $77 dynasty league kind of to get everybody involved on Draft Sharks, but it's a lot easier to make, big trades that way. Maybe if you're in $1,000 dynasty league, it's a little bit different, a little bit shakier because, if you have a bad team in $1,000 league, you're burning $1,000 every single year. We're here, it's a lot cheaper here. So yeah, 5 first round picks is tough. It's hopefully he can sneaky joke and trade a couple of those for next year.
Those 77s, I'm in one of those with Davis Maddock and Louis G.
Nice.
I got second last year. It pays $150 for second.
There you go.
It's not even 2x.
Big time.
Come on. Let's get Alex back.
Let's get him on the show.
$150 for second and pay 77.
I'm a hothead. Get him on the show.
Come on. All right, everybody. Well, you can follow us on Twitter at those handles that you see on the screen. We're also on Tuesdays talking high stakes. It's where these worlds merge, is the FFPC high stakes, the never too early best ball tournaments, and eventually the football guys in the main event. And then we'll do Dynasty on Thursday, different guests, and try to give you different perspectives. But ask us anything over the course of the off season. Enjoy the rest of your night and your weekend. And Adam, right, we'll have a new logo at some point.
Yes.
You're gonna have a background that does not make me think you are sitting outside in Maine at your uncle's cottage.
I'm in a ship right now. I'm in an old wooden ship.
It's better. You keep saying that. I keep going back to the lobster roll. The ship is the better idea. All right. Thank you, Adam. Thanks, Jim Coventry. Thanks everybody for watching. See you next week on the Deep End.
See you guys.